Chapter 2 of The Dog with the Golden Eyes. Cassie settled herself in front of the television with a big bag of corn chips. Her favorite program came on right after the news. She put up with reports of freeway mashups and gang violence in order to watch the TV show about a teenage girl and her friends. They looked like they were having a great time, and Cassie sighed. Cassie remembered when she and Lindsay used to take turn calling each other after supper and talk for an hour or so. Then one evening, Lindsay's mother had answered the phone and said Lindsay wasn't there. "She's gone to the mall with Shannon and Joanna." Cassie's hand was shaking as she put down the receiver. How could Lindsay do this to me? Her brain was numb. She waited all evening for a call from Lindsay with some sort of explanation, but the phone never rang. The next day, when they passed each other in the halls between classes, Lindsay stopped and said quickly to Cassie, "Sorry I wasn't home when you called. I had to go shopping." That was all. A couple days later, Lindsay did phone her, but everything was different. They'd only talked for 10 minutes. And now Lindsay only smiled and nodded to her as they passed in the hallway. Sometimes when they passed each other, Lindsay didn't even see Cassie. She was so busy talking to Shannon and Joanna. The three girls seemed to go everywhere together, linked arm in arm, talking and laughing. "I don't care," Cassie told herself. She was determined not to care. She thought about the white dog. The news came on the television screen. The lead story was about heavy rains and flooding in another county. People had been marooned, houses and bridges washed away. Ordinarily, such tragedies would have fascinated Cassie. She would have watched for the rescue of animals by their owners, but the screen was a blur. In her mind, she saw only the white dog with the halo of sunlight. She didn't notice that her favorite show had begun. In her head, she was romping in the backyard with the white dog. Neither did she hear the front door open and close. "Hi, I'm home," announced her mother in a tired voice. Cassie came back to the present and looked up. "Hi, Mom," she said carefully, and held out the sack of corn chips to her mother. Her mother shook her head, sat down in the green upholstered chair, and leaned back with her eyes shut. Her waitress uniform was spotted, and strands of brown hair had escaped from beneath the little cap that was supplied to be perky, but wasn't. Her face wore a strained expression that made her look older than usual. "I don't suppose there's any mail," said her mother. "Sort of," said Cassie. "Some bills, a bunch of ads, and a catalog for car parts." "I meant mail from your father. I was hoping there'd be a check." "No," Cassie said shortly. She hated to be reminded of her father leaving home. She knew her parents weren't divorced, but her father sent a check once in a while to help out. It was really a money order, not a check, and the postmark on the envelope always said San Francisco. Her father was a car mechanic, and a really good one. Cassie tried to figure out where he might be, but the San Francisco phone book had pages and pages of garages where her father might have gone to work. Before he left, he had his business at home and worked on cars in their garage. Lots of people brought him their cars instead of taking them to a regular garage because he was so good and didn't charge as much. Cassie had loved watching him work. She knew he liked having her there because he always explained to her what he was doing and why. He showed her how to start with the problem and step by step eliminate the possible causes. "Always start with the simplest thing first," he told her. It was fun watching him figure out how to fix a problem. She always had a good time with her father. She remembered the time her father had taken her to the circus. Her mother didn't want to go with them. "It's so dusty and smells of animals," she said. Her father bought them 2 giant cones of pink cotton candy. They ate them laughing and talking, walking up and down the aisle between the cages of animals waiting to perform. She sighed. How she missed him. Cassie's mother sat up and opened her eyes. I saw something funny as I drove home, she said. There was a white truck that read County Animal Control on the side. My headlights picked it out. There must be a fancy name for a dog catcher. I haven't seen any dogs running loose around here. Have you? Cassie gulped and said, Everybody around here knows always to keep their dogs on a leash. She quickly asked her mother, Did you eat at work? No, it's hard to eat after looking at food all day and listening to everybody's problems, she sighed. I'm not really hungry, but you can fix me something. Her mother worked at the Red Baron Burger fast food place a couple of miles from their house. Cassie couldn't understand why the people her mother worked with always told her their problems. Her mother wasn't the kind of person Cassie would tell her problems to. Cassie went to the kitchen. There was plenty of ground beef and enough of their tortillas as well, for the white dog too. She put half the ground beef away in the back of the refrigerator for the white dog. She cooked the rest of the meat and made 4 tortillas, putting 2 on one plate. She chopped lettuce and tomatoes and heaped them over the ground beef, shook out the contents of the package of crumbled yellow cheese on top of the tomatoes, and liberally splashed taco sauce from the jar over the small mound of food on each plate. Supper's ready, Mom, announced Cassie, putting the plates on the kitchen table and hastily assembling forks and spoons, paper towels for napkins. Mom! Her mother appeared in the doorway. Whew, that's way too much food. It looks good, but you always cook too much. Maybe not, Mom, said Cassie. She wished her mother didn't always follow a compliment with but. I'll eat what you don't want. I know, said her mother. She looked at Cassie. She stopped abruptly, and a smile waved across her face. You look nice in that blouse. That color's good on you. Thanks, Mom. Cassie decided that the school counselor's last conference with her mother had helped a little bit. Earlier that year, Cassie had decided to quit studying because she never could please her mother. There was no point in even trying. Then, after the last report card, when her grade in science was an A and the rest of her grades were pretty bad, her mother told Cassie that the principal had asked her to go to a school and meet with the counselor. When her mother came home after the meeting, Cassie asked, What did the counselor say? Her mother hesitated. He said that you were an underachiever. What does that mean? It means you have an awful lot of ability. I told him I knew that. Then he said I should let you work at your own speed and not say things to discourage you. Well, Cassie had thought, I hope she takes his advice. They sat down at the table, and Cassie attacked the food. She ate quickly from the time to time she glanced at her mother's plate. At last, her mother put down her fork. Are you through, Mom? Asked Cassie, and after a pause followed by a nod from her mother, she deftly whisked the food from her mother's plate onto her own. I'll bet you're glad we never waste any food. Sure, said her mother. She stood up. I'm really beat. I'm going to go to bed. Don't forget to turn off the TV. Cassie was startled. She didn't even remember turning it on. She looked down at the dishes with a little frown. She had rinsed the dishes and put them into the dishwasher. She took the rest of the corn chips from the living room, turned off the TV, and went to her room. From her bookshelves, she pulled a well-worn copy of The Complete Dog Book, published by the American Kennel Club. She stretched out on her bed and turned the pages. Cassie was sure she had never seen a dog quite like that white dog. She had seen him for less than a minute, and she couldn't find a picture of what he looked like. After a while, she closed the book, put the empty corn chip sack in the bag marked paper only, and went quickly back to the door. She sat down on the top step and stared into the darkness. There was no moon, but the low clouds glowed pink and reflected neon lights of Los Angeles. She saw dimly the pale mark of the cookie sandwich she'd left beside the tree. For nearly half an hour, she kept vigil without moving while her mind sent a message to the white dog. Come back to me. I won't let the dog catcher get you. There was only a little wind in the trees and an occasional call of some night bird and the crickets singing in their high, thin voices. Cassie shivered and finally went inside to bed. She remembered her mother seeing a dog catcher truck. Cassie would have to make friends quickly with the dog before he was caught and taken to the pound. Tomorrow she would take the ground beef she had saved and put it outside by the liquid amber tree. We'll do chapter 3 next.